So busy from when I first turned professional, I haven't had a chance to get out of training. So what I've learned now, the experience I've gained, I feel normal, I feel good. Been sparring yesterday, done 12 rounds sparring yesterday. So things are going well, but for me it's mainly like on the day. That's what it all comes down to for me, because training camp can go brilliant, but if you just don't feel 100% on the day, then it's pretty pointless. So it's kind of, for me, October the 11th, if I'm game and I'm ready, I've had a good food, good bit of rest, I'm sure I'll get the performance and get the victory.
You took time out to talk to everybody here. It's obviously a pretty pressurized time because there is an awful lot riding on your shoulders. What is an average day like for Anthony Joshua?
It's boring. It's boring. It's like, so I look at the guys like who spar with Mike Tyson. So when I first started, I'd watch Tyson and stuff, and he would get up at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock and start running. So I set my alarm, same time, I'm up, so I get out there, I hit the roads. I started the day off listening to some like motivational speeches from YouTube, and I listen to that while I'm running. So it gets me pumped for the day. Not every day I feel like getting up. Sometimes I feel like hitting the snooze button and staying in bed, but I know my opponent's probably out working hard somewhere, so I crack on. Then it's a good bit of breakfast. I have like steak and jacket potatoes and stuff for breakfast. You know, I've got to keep strong. So after that, I'm straight back in bed, check Instagram, Twitter and stuff like that now, you know. It keeps me up an extra half an hour or so, but once that's done, I'm back in bed resting. Then I'm heading to the boxing gym. It takes me about an hour to get to the boxing gym, so I leave my house at about 11 AM, get there for 12, and I won't get home till about 6:30, 6 o'clock, but the boxing training is, I can't even find words to describe it. I've had 8 fights, as you said, but it's like they're preparing me for a world title, seriously, because the training is so intense, and they keep me in the gym for a good like 3.5 hours, and about 2.5 hours is just non-stop work. And it's tough, but when it's said and done, I feel good driving home with my music, and I feel good, but now I've got to go through it again the next day.
That's tough. I've been through that sort of thing. What motivates you? What makes Anthony Joshua tick?
What makes me tick? So I started boxing when I was 18. I've always been lively, always had a bit of character, I always like to enjoy myself. But I've always wanted to be successful. I didn't know what I was going to do. I tried bricklaying. You know, some of my mates that I was on the course with now set up their own businesses and stuff like that. They're doing well. So I always wanted to do something that I could progress in and potentially like help my family. Because my mum comes from Nigeria, she was the first generation here. Mum was born here, and I'm trying to do something positive. So for me, it's the opportunity that I've got now. That this wasn't planned. I didn't start boxing when I was 11, 10 years old. I started when I was 18, and I kind of fell into this opportunity. And at first, it was a bit of fun. I wanted to get strong. I enjoyed it. I still do enjoy it now, but just for a bit of fun. And now I can see I could potentially, where everyone says I don't look that far ahead. I'm just concentrating on October 11th, but I could potentially become a world champion, and that would be. That is unbelievable to just know that I could potentially achieve that.
Now we're gonna ask the floor for some questions in a little while, so I'm sure they're gonna ask you about the Olympic Games and how great that was. But just going to your first pro fight, that was only a year ago. You were out for a little while after the Olympic Games. It was here at the O2 on a big bill, a big night. Yeah. That must have been so nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I was out for about, I think it was 14 months after the Olympics to when I turned pro and had my first pro fight. It was like a 14-month gap. And in boxing, you know, ring rust and all that stuff. But while I was away, like I linked up with guys like Lennox Lewis, you know, gained valuable experience from him, but just talking to me. I've got friends in Ukraine who are, like boxing historians, friends in London. So I was doing a lot of research just so I could study the game and understand exactly what I was getting into. So when I turned pro, I was nervous, but I'd already taken a year to calculate exactly what I was getting myself into. So when the time came, I was ready to rumble. I felt good. It was training, it was summertime, it was hot. From training for 3 rounds to training for 6 to 8 rounds, you know, it was tough, but I adapted, and I was at the peak of my condition at the time.
We can't talk a great deal about your fights because the question would probably take longer than the fights last. so we can't talk a lot. What occasion or what has stood out over the last year that's been the best?
Stood out over the last year. It's like experiences like this outside of boxing. Stuff like this is class. Like meeting people. Boxing's like it's not football. It's not like these other sports, but it's great. And if you see how I've met you today, if any of you guys tune in October the 11th, you'll feel something from me. You'll think, I know fighters that I've watched, and from when I first started, I would have seen them, and now I'm seeing them up as world champions. And when they fight, I get a certain passion for them. So this stuff like this, I get familiar with people that I've never met. And the second one for me would probably be when I fought in Scotland. That was crazy. I come out to Proclaimers 500, so you get to choose your ring entrance music and stuff. And instead of the usual hip hop that I listen to in my car, I thought it was like completely different. And the crowd went nuts. There was about 10,000 people out of their seats, dancing and cheering. And
to be honest, that was the one thing that I was going to ask you about, because for me, covering your fights, that's been the standout experience, because you've dealt with each challenge in a very professional manner. You can tell that you're learning and listening and coming on, but to get 10,000 Scottish fight fans all behind you, all standing up, all singing along with you, that takes popularity, and that's what you've got. I just keep myself to myself. I interact with people through social media, and I'm just a people's person, really. Your life must have changed, though. You know, it's only a few years ago, from bricklayer to now a big star, and it's all happening for you.
Yeah, as I said, this career wasn't mapped out for me. It's not like my parents said, "Oh, you're going to be a boxer," or anyone in my family said so. I've seen things change, not majorly. I've already had 8 pro fights. The Olympics was great, but
the MBE,
I wouldn't forget any of like the ABA championships, and they're small time tournaments in your region and stuff like that. But that's all what shaped me. But I'll never forget those. But I've just seen like people, everyone has their time. I've seen people think that I'm not going to achieve anything, probably going to fail in life. Now I've seen people like supporting me, and things change, and it's a great thing. But you can never forget your struggles and where you come from. And I think that hopefully I'll crack on and do well, and I can give some experience back to some younger people coming through.
Well, I think you're obviously an inspiration. I'm saying that as myself, because I work a lot with youngsters, and you're an inspiration to young people growing up, because boxing, at times it has its knockers, and at times it's you know, sometimes it's the fight business, so sometimes it gets a little bit crazy. But I'm glad that you're keeping it all straight. And boxing has, you know, I want to have somebody to look up to, somebody in a position as world champion that we can be proud of, and you're doing that.
I appreciate it. I'm trying hard, and my coaches are definitely preparing me for that opportunity. So when the time comes, I'm pretty confident. If it's the right time, I won't let anyone down.
Good. Well, we'll post a question. We've got a young fighter from Islington Boxing Club.
How you doing?
Jack, who's won 3 out of 3, so he's coming after you.
He done better than I. Lost my 3rd one.
So what do you want to ask, Jack?
If you could fight any boxer all time, who would it be?
All time. I would like to box. It would probably be. I'd have to avoid Mike Tyson for sure. Have you heard of a boxer called Joe Lewis?
Yeah.
You've heard of Joe Lewis? It'll probably be Joe Lewis. He's an old school boxer. He was the second.
He's the longest reigning world champion.
Yeah, and he's very, very humble, but he's so strong, and he like changed boxing. Like the old fighters would box like that. He kind of brought it to how we box today, and I just like to fight him just to see what it would be like to be in with someone who what do you call it? Evolution. He changed the sport really. Yeah. Who would you choose? George Rose.
What's George done wrong?
Next year, we've got next year. So there's a good British scene at heavyweight, and I've got to get through the lower tier first, which I'm kind of doing now, building my way up. And then there's guys like Fury. I'm sure you heard of Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. But he's talented, but these are the guys out there that I want to be competing with so I can make my mark in the heavyweight division. Price. I don't like to say Chisora because he went to my amateur gym. And I remember when I first went there, his picture was on the wall and I asked my coach who he was and what he had done. And he told me he was ABA champion and I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. So I got respect for him, but he's done well and now I'm a professional, we could potentially fight. And I would like to compete with him now at some stage. And then there's a lot of American guys that talk a lot as well that need shutting up as well, that I'll potentially get to. So I'm going to go through the British circuit first, break out into Europe, and then I'm going to go for the world.
People are obviously getting excited backstage. Yes.
No.
In the Olympics, that was gold medal in victory. I thought you drew us tournament points, and I do think you were a worthy winner versus Cameron in the final, even though some people argued it. One thing I want to my chest is I do think you were extremely fortunate in the very first fight versus the Cubans head-on. You probably heard this debate before. I'd like to know your response.
I feel that so I went to let's start off as an amateur. So I was competing as an amateur for 3 years.
I saw you in the early days, you were in novices.
So you saw me in the novices. So I've been to a lot of tournaments and stuff. And what I experienced about competing throughout the world is that. So I'll never forget the time when I was in Azerbaijan. So I worked my way up to become #1 in Great Britain in 3 years, you know. And then I'll never forget. So I was in Azerbaijan at the World Championships, which is the first Olympic qualifier. And then I wasn't expected to do anything special out there. It was about getting experience. But I managed to fight my way to the final against some real top amateurs. And at the time, I think I had like 38 fights. And I was competing, as you said, against Savon, Azerbaijan, Camarelli, Kazakhstan. These countries, these guys have had up to like 200 fights plus. So this was just about experience for me right now, even though I was an Olympic qualifier. So I'm fighting my way through. I had about 6 fights in 10 days. And then I got to the quarter-final against Camarelli, who I boxed in the final, and I managed to beat him at the Worlds. And that's what got me the qualification. So I've gone on now, I think I had another fight or 2 fights and I won, which got me to the final against the Azerbaijan. So now I'm fighting the Azerbaijan in Azerbaijan. And you know, I'm a bit taller than this guy. This guy's real strong. But we had like a real rocky fight, you know. The army was there, his president was there. Same question you asked me is the same question a lot of people asked. They felt I won the fight. But my job, if you watch the fight, you know, I put my hands up. I think I performed to a level that I should have got the decision, but I didn't. And I went back and prepared for the Olympics. And I got the understanding is that there's a thing where you call like home advantages, if you want to call it that. So I knew I could beat all these guys. So all these guys from the world are the best in the world, and I'm going to meet them again in a few months in the Olympics. So I thought to myself, all right, he won this world gold medal, which I should have won because he was in his home country. Even though it was a close fight, but it sways towards him. So I knew these are coming to my home turf now. So I'm going to put up a serious fight, and I know no one's beating me on my home turf, and that's how I kind of judge it. So I knew I honestly was that confident I knew I'd already won the Olympics.